Well, welcome to the latest 2022 Literary Festival of DC's South. And we have with us Professor Suman Ghosh and our moderator for today, Arindam Ghosh. I don't know if they are related. You may want to wonder about they'll
No.
answer the question.
No.
Same last name does not necessarily mean that's so Professor Ghosh is a national award-winning Indian filmmaker, was also a professor of economics. He's made 6 feature films and 1 documentary film. And Dr. Ghosh has his BSc from the Presidency College in Calcutta and his MA in economics from Delhi School of Economics and his PhD in economics from the Cornell University. He's also had film training at Cornell up in New York. And today we have our moderator, which is Arindam Ghosh, and Arindam is the artistic director of Ibong Theatrics, a South Asian theater company which he co-founded in 2014. He's a filmmaker. He specializes in micro-budget films on Indian stories with global themes. His first film, which was Shyamal Uncle Turns Off the Lights, which he produced, was premiered in Busan International Film Festival and in the US, and it has premiered at the Museum of MoMA, which is modern arts in New York, and won a prize for outstanding international feature at the Real World Film Festival. His second film is Peace Haven. He won prestigious script development award from the Asian Cinema Fund. But today we'll be talking about Dr. Ghosh's latest book that just got released, and kind of an ode and a remembrance for the world famous Soumitra Chatterjee. I will let Arindam take it away from here, and I will see you at the end as a host. Welcome.
Thank you, Mira. Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. So is Shumon on camera?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. All right. Just to get started, everyone, let me answer the question you have posed. No, we are not related, but we have been friends since our days at Delhi School, and we have collaborated on a number of films, including some of the ones that Mira mentioned. But let me first welcome Shumon to this session of the DC South Asia Literary Festival. And it's really a privilege and honor for me to be able to discuss with him this book, which is part memoir, part tribute to a person, as Shumon rightly points out, probably one of the last Renaissance figure in India, whose versatility was not only confined to just acting, but in many different areas of art. So Shumon, the first question that I would like to ask you is, why write a book? You have had a very close association with Soumitra Chatterjee for a very long time. Your interaction and your relationship grew out of film and cinema and that medium. So why the decision to write a book, which is somewhat a different medium than your basic interaction with it?
Right. First of all, thank you, DC South Asian Arts Council. Thank you in many ways, because the film festival which you all organize has, shown many of my films previously. So this is the first time I'm coming to your literary festival. I don't know whether this is a regular phenomenon or the first time. I'm not aware of that, but it's the second time.
Second time.
Yeah. And for Arindam to be, talk to me about this book. And also, I think in the introduction, Mira forgot to mention that Arindam is now an acclaimed actor. He did 2 of my films and another film, wonderful film, which I saw from the, I would say one of my favorite directors in India now, Aditya Vikram Sengupta, which will be screened, I think, in Washington, DC very soon in April. So, so apart from his avatar as producer, and of course a theater person originally and an actor. So, but most importantly, he's my college friend. So we have a deep relationship for many years now. So about the book, honestly, yes, it is a different medium. And I had never, I always tell everyone that my first passion is reading, and then whatever economics or films, and the rest follows. And so I have a love affair with books for many years now, and one of my uh, closest association with Soumitra Chatterjee, or I call her Soumitra Kaku in Bengali, call him Soumitra Kaku in Bengali, is through books. As I write in my book also, we exchanged regular reading lists of what he reads and what he has read. I used to bring, when I went back to Kolkata, I used to take books for him, and he was an avid reader too. And I'm sure if you ask him, given he's such a Renaissance man, he would also say that the first love is book. So it is quite apt that unfortunately he's no more, but that a book I wrote is written on him. I wish he could read that, so because we exchange so many things. You see, I had no plans of writing a book, but after he passed away, I think 2020 November, during the peak COVID times, I was quite distraught, and I didn't know how to cope up with my loss. So I would say a lot of credit goes to my editor of this book, Shantanu Roy Chaudhary, who is himself a national award-winning writer. He had written a piece on my films with Soumitra Chatterjee, 5 films with him, and so I was. So he knew about my work in details, and he had brought out aspects of my films with Soumitra Chatterjee, which I was amazed and pleased as a director. And he coaxed me in and suggested to me the idea that why don't you think of writing a book on your association with him. Initially, I didn't know how to react because I was quite crestfallen after his demise. But I took some time and thought that there are 2 main reasons. One is that it might help me to get over my personal crisis after his loss, and also I do not remember any book. I'm sure there are written by directors on the association with their actors. There has been books that actors have written about. For example, Soumitra Kaku has a book, Master and I, which is with his relationship with Satyajit Ray. But for a director and an actor, I have not seen any book like that. And also, the details which a director can talk about, which I think any other biographer or film writer would not get it, because they don't have the one-on-one. Of course, they can have a different perspective on writing about any actor. In this case, Soumitra Kaku, because he was such a Renaissance man, his interests in theater, poetry, painting, and everything in the world, cricket, and so many things. So I thought that I have a unique relationship with him. And I still find it difficult to say I had a relationship with him. I have a relationship with him where, it is important, I think, to, put forward, to write it down and present it to the world. Not only because he's such an icon and legend and whatever, but what makes him as a human being, first. And we can, include such terms as legend, icon, this way, Dada Saheb Phalke Award, Padma Bhushan, and whatever he has got, Padma Vibhushan, I think. But, to go to the micro core of that person, what builds, I think these are the interactions which I had with him can elucidate the readers or whoever reads it, how was he in person. So I remember that after my addas with him, which I so cherished, when I used to call you right after the adda, and many of my friends, and my friends had told me, I wish I was silently present in that adda, because so many interesting things, we used to laugh and have fun and discuss serious things. So I thought that, this book can be that silent, or like a CCTV camera in my relationship with him. So that was the reason I decided to, write the book and accept Shantanu's proposal. Yeah.
In a way, the book feels and read very personal. I mean, it is not unlike other biographical or tribute, it does not dwell on the accomplishment, the macro
Right.
accomplishment of the person, but it takes you right into his living room,
That's
and
right.
it places you right next to him while you are
Right.
exchanging these topics on various different things. But your book starts with a very poignant moment, the moment when you are in Miami and you learn that he has passed away, and you are sitting there, you are distraught, you're watching
Right.
those footages on ABP, and Maya and Leela, your daughter, kind of
Yeah.
comes and hugs you and leaves you alone. And I know it, and we have talked about it. It was a very, very uh, painful moment for you. But
Right.
take us to the transition from that painful moment to be able to sit down and say, "Hey, I'm going to pen this down and I'm going to bring this into a book," as almost like a
Right.
cathartic, almost like a closure of
That's
that
right.
painful situation.
Yeah. Um, that's what I told you. The first reason
Mm.
was, it would help me to get over the crisis, like a catharsis. And Shoumitsu Kaku always said that to look ahead in life. And now everybody knows, he has gone through some, you know, personal mishaps in his life in the last later years, which we can't imagine anyone can go through. His grandson met with a almost fatal accident, and I have seen him overcome, because I shot Boshu Poribar after the event when Rono, his grandson, was. So I thought that he will be personally so devastated that he can't go ahead in life, or but I shot 6 months after his the deep tragedy in his life. But he was he always said that work is our savior. You have to look ahead. These things will happen. So talking about the transition, we all have gone through such events in life, whether our parents or closed ones passed away, and now with COVID, I'm sure everybody has gone through such personal crisis. And I think the first reaction which happens is that a sense of void. It is not, immediately you don't cry also. It is just, there's a sense of void, and deep sorrow is the word, where we don't know how to react. We are eating, I'm spending time with my family, but I'm just not there. There's as if somebody has taken out my heart and left it. So that period went for, say, a month or so. But then slowly, I started thinking about him, and uh, uh, you know so one gets over one thing which I have learned in life is, however deep your tragedy or sorrow, um, very very cliched term, but time is a great healer, what it is said, but I would add it onto that. Time is a great healer. It is an objective way to make a distance from that event, only which time can bring about. And slowly, and then I recollected my conversation with Shoumitsu Kaku, and by the time the book offer came, I was actually getting solace from remembering the conversations which I had. So rather than lament and throw my towel, I thought that why don't I cherish and enjoy the conversation? So when the book offer came, I was already starting to do that in my mental mind. So that was the transition from when I heard the news to start writing the book.
Right, right, and it's a very good point that you bring up. It's channeling that grief,
Right,
that sorrow into some in your work, as you have said, when his grandson met with that fatal accident, and you write in your book, and you went to visit him,
mm,
apprehensive that he will be devastated. You actually find him not sulking in his room, but in his studio where he's actually
right,
painting. He's
painting. Yeah,
actually painting. And another incident you mentioned, when he had a very bad medical diagnosis, and
right,
you went to meet him. He's not there obsessing over his medical condition, but preparing the next script for the next
right.
play.
Yeah,
And those are the wonderful lessons that come out from your narrative. Is how he immersed, he threw himself into his work
Right.
to channel that grief into
Uh-huh.
something constructive and positive.
Right.
But and I was, when I started reading it, given that it starts off from a very somber tone of death, and
Right.
death appears in many forms, in many shapes, in many discussions throughout the book, but and in various chapters too. But it is never a morbid discussion. It's a very uh, interesting way of assessing what mortality is
Right.
and how to handle it. So I would like to get your perspective on your interaction with Shobhita Chatterjee on how he viewed his mortality. And you do mention a certain change in his mortality after he turned 80 and with that medical
Right.
condition.
Right. Right.
And when you actually mention in your book that he says he actually can see his death.
Right.
What did you think he meant by that, and how did he deal with it?
See, um, first of all, you were also one of the producers and writer in that same movie. We made an entire film, P7,
Yeah,
based on
P7.
a death, and he was the main character in that film,
Right.
apart from two other great actors. So the tone of the film was how we means me and Shomitra, who looked upon death. With it's a part of life, and some kind of sarcasm and humor. That is how he looked upon death. I also looked upon death, like that. And so we had discussions on that. We used to make fun of death. And you see, I think that was, we are not that age yet, like me and
Sure.
you or whatever. But I think once someone crosses 75 or 80, that is one of the brilliant coping mechanisms of death also. But I mentioned coping mechanisms quite consciously because there is a real sadness in that event of life, which we all. So I think after he turned 80, when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer and those kind of, so in that humorous space, somewhere a poignancy came in, and but I never found him a thread of poignancy, I would say, after he did it. But I never found him lamenting is that my life is over. It was the other way around. I have so much more to do. So he had I'm sure if you ask his daughter Paulumidi, he has still probably 10 theater performances which he want, like he used to write and direct also.
Yeah.
And he knew, I'm telling you, that he used to write plays. He knew that he cannot direct anymore. It's very physical, and because I think after Suman Mukhopadhyay's Last Clear, that was the last physical play which he had done. Yeah. Physical in the sense that because it's because you're a theater director and actor, how physically consuming that running from rehearsals to the entire performances, and to be there on stage for 2.5 hours the entire period. It was, he also knew that he cannot anymore, but he kept on writing. So it was always a forward looking thing. So when that thread of mortality came to him, so it was the other way around. I have so much more to do. And remember that after 80, he has delivered, for example, with me, he has done P7 with Boshu Poribar and such films. But he blossomed as a superstar in Bengali cinema. He was always there. But somehow after 80, if you see Bela Sheshe and Posto, these are commercial super hits. Right. And I remembered that a conversation he had with Amitabh Bachchan when in the Kolkata Film Festival, when Amitabh Bachchan was a guest of honor. He was also invited. So on stage, both of them were together. And the next day when I went to an adda with him, he said that both Amitabh Bachchan and him were joking that Amitabh, I think, is just 80 or something, but this was many years back. He was definitely past 75 then, Amitabh Bachchan. They were joking that, and Amitabh had just released Piku, which was such a super hit, Sujit Sarkar, and Bela Sheshe released the same week or 1 or 2 weeks. So, the two icons of Bengali cinema and Hindi cinema delivering two super duper hits in their own field. And they were joking that, he told me in Bangla that, we were joking that Amra ekhonu lore jacchi na. So they had a discussion laughing about themselves, Amitabh Bachchan and him, that we are still, batting at this age. So, yeah, that's what I would say. After his mortality thing, as if he went on, top gear after that, and he started. Though physically, I'm telling you, I think I told you also, 4 hours was his span. He couldn't work after 4 hours because of his health condition was deteriorating. But that hunger was always there. And after 4 hours, I could also see on when I'm shooting on camera, his face drooped because somehow his energy used to go. He's like having breathing problems, so nobody could do anything. But he was so much hungry, and within that 4 hour period, he used to do these films, which I'm telling you, not only my films, a brilliant film called Moyurakki, Otanu Ghosh's. So many such hits he delivered after he was 80. So that is how he responded to the threat of mortality. Going back to your question. Yeah.
That's so. And I'm going to change gears a little bit and ask you about you as a writer, how you prepared yourself, because you have our training, and you're more so because you're in academia is more to write academic papers. Right. They have a certain style of writing. They have a certain way of presenting facts, arguing things, and you have published in many journals, many top journals, and so that's your forte. And so, being used to that kind of variety, and I know you have written opinion pieces in Telegraph and other journals all along, but how did you pivot going from that kind of an academic writing to writing a book like this?
See, again, even before I give my answer, I should give a lot of credit to my editor, Shantanu Roy Choudhury, who was guiding me in this entire process. So you mentioned correctly that I didn't have any experience, and I didn't know how to write the book. In the sense of, and I didn't want to write a biography of sorts for sure, because that is for someone else to write. And also, I didn't want to go chronologically from A to Z like that. So you will see that the book has been arranged quite strangely, in the sense that there are chapters in the middle. There are what is it called? Like interludes,
epilogues, interludes,
interludes within the chapters, which are small incidents. For example, his relationship with my daughters. So a friendship between two friends who are 80 years apart. The different age difference was 80 years between my daughters and Soumitra Babu. Or his interaction with my driver, Shaukat, there's an interaction. So I thought that these are extremely important elements which defines the man. But how to put it, and I want to emphasize also, I could have put it as a small paragraph in one of the chapters, but I want to emphasize, because that is very important, those interludes, or when he came for lunch at my place, those kind of things, how he interacted with my parents. And so those interludes are very odd within the chapters, small, like in Bengali we call chutki. I don't know what is the English translation for that. And also you will see that I thought that I am a filmmaker. Remember, I didn't take notes while I was interacting with him because of two reasons. One is that of course, I never planned a book or anything like him. So why will I take notes? And, second of all, if I was conscious that I might write a book later after his demise or something like that, then there would be some impurity in the relationship, right? Because I have in mind that, I have to talk to him about this aspect because I have that mindset. So that is, I think, a wrong way of and you have seen when I make films also, the ideas I get, it is not that I get an idea and I'll make a film on that. I get newspapers or so many avenues, and then I ponder upon that, and after that I think of developing this into a script or something like that. Because as filmmakers, there is a tendency of, say, you're reading a book, you immediately think that, oh, is this film adaptable? Or you're interacting with a person, I might bring this character in one of my films, something. I think that brings a somewhat impurity in your experience of life. So I never recorded or written anything like. So I was remembering my interactions, right? So it was post facto, I was remembering the interactions. So, for example, one chapter is about my adda with him,
Right.
a long chapter. So this was written like a script, and because I'm a filmmaker, I thought, why don't I write? It is like a scene where
Exactly.
I get in. I also make, gaps where his dhobi has
He's
come
getting,
and he's interacting with his dhobi, and then, or Kakima,
he's
his
getting
wife,
phone
already,
calls. He's getting phone calls.
and then when I'm sitting and attending to my. So it's like, how would I have written a screenplay of, or a scene? That is how I wrote that chapter. So these are some of the ways in which the organization of the writing came about. Yeah.
And also the other interesting way you present each of the chapters, not the interviews, but the chapters, is you bring up the key moment or anecdote first. So the reader first gets it's a beautiful piece
Right.
of nugget first, and
Right.
then the chapter draws into you the larger context
Right.
into which
Right.
that nugget belongs. Was
Right.
that a conscious choice, or that's how it just
No,
evolved?
actually, after you mentioned, nobody mentioned that also. After you mentioned, I realized, yeah. So it was definitely not conscious. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. So yeah, I mean, going ahead. So my question about that chapter. So and exactly, it almost felt like a scene from a movie. That whole,
Right.
and I'm guessing it's that adda that you wrote is a composite of many addas, right?
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a wonderful interaction on the various
Right.
kind of topics,
Mhm.
beginning from films to
Right.
theater to your own work,
Right.
and moving on to cricket, politics.
Right. Yeah.
It's just a fascinating range.
Yeah.
But and then going back to this thing about age, and initially when we talked about, you say, mostly you see actors writing about directors, and there's always this, when Satyajit Ray and Soumitra Chatterjee interacted, there's an age difference between them. The
Right.
director was almost like the mentor or the
Right.
guide, and but in your case, it's
It's the reverse.
age
Yeah.
is reversed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I see, as you when you did Podokke, you start off, or you were at the set for Pipira, and you were
Dakha.
just Dakha,
Dakha.
and you
Yeah.
were Dakha, yeah, Gautam Ghosh's film Dakha. You were, there was this
Right.
awe, there was this hesitancy in interaction. From
Right.
there to your first directorial interaction with him, which was trying to understand his cadence, his way of working,
Right.
to a situation where you are sitting there, you are admonishing him for having drinks way more drinks than his doctor ordered,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you are questioning him on his suitability or his accomplishment as a father or a family man,
Father or a husband. Yeah.
as a husband.
Yeah.
How did this happen? I mean, how? Well, is this a very, I mean, it felt, yeah, I mean, I'm just
See, I
curious.
would give that credit to Soumitra Kaku to begin with, in the sense that, in West Bengal particularly, people, the way people treat him is almost like a demigod, where, and I can understand if we, for example, met Satyajit Ray or Uttam Kumar, or, the other greats, or even writers, Mahashweta Devi, Navanita Devshina, whatever, but particularly with Soumitra, like, he falls in that category of, Satyajit Ray, and then Amartya Sen and Soumitra, they are as if pujoniyo, mane, you should
Yeah,
worship them.
yeah,
And he hates that way of people interacting with him. So he has hardly anyone to be normal with. And I think he soon, first of all, he was very, as I write in the book, he was quite curious about me, that, I'm from a different world, coming to make films, and, and those small interactions we had initially. But I think he enjoyed the fact that after a while, I had my awe factor was diminished, and it was taken over by my friendship avatar with him. So as with time, so if you see, this honest was here, it kept, of course my respect was there, but the friendship thing increased. So I think over time he realized that I can open up to him, and he used to so that is the process. If I can explain to you analytically or theoretically, that was the process. And later he used to openly say that Suman is like my son, where that friendship took over, and then the father aspect. And so at the end it was a hodgepodge of a friend, a mentor, a father, and of course on that actor thing was there, because that was primarily our interaction as a director actor.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is that transition. What strikes me as very surprising is the transition is very smooth, and relationships are not generally
actually,
not
I mentioned in the book an incident, if you remember, that during the National Awards night, when he called me to his room, remember, like he was not being able to, because he has claustrophobia, and he was not claustrophobia, it is called the fear of heights.
Vertigo.
So he has vertigo, and we were staying at a hotel, and it was like 20th floor or something his room was. And that call at 10 at night, or 10 or 10:30 at night, when I was going to sleep almost, I see him calling and said that, what are you doing? Why don't? And then he, very like a child, he accepted that, I'm feeling uncomfortable sleeping alone. Can you come and say there's another bed in my room? So he was in a suite. So I think that was a very nice gesture, which I also thought that, wow, and remember, in detail I described when I'm sleeping in one bed, he's in another bed, and he is going on, the adda is continuing, lights are off, the adda is continuing. So, after that, when he went to sleep, so then he said, oh, it's quite late, now let's go to sleep. So he went to sleep, I was awake. And then I also realized that, this is Soumitra Chatterjee sleeping next to me. And, this is Feluda, but it was, Feluda, or this we call legend, and whatever you call. But he's just sleeping next to me. And he so normally, he made it so casual for me also. And remember that Adda was about Mohun Bagan and Indian cricket and all sorts of things. So I think that was a very crucial turning point, where he also got the assurance of calling me to his room at night, because he was feeling insecure to sleep because of his vertigo. And for me also to break the not ice also, but that transition from that awe, that went away, because Soumitra is sleeping next to me, he's deep asleep, and I was awake, I'm telling you, for at least an hour, just thinking about what is going on. And this is the guy, he's so normal, he's so like my father. So that was a crucial transition point, I would say.
And just to put this in context, this is the national award he won for the first time for your first film, Podoke.
Right.
And the year before, he had refused the honorable jury mention from the festival. And you have a very nice story where the festival committee, before bestowing him with the national award, called him to confirm that. But did you ever ask him how did he feel about not getting in any of these awards over the years for so many of the remarkable roles that not only for Satya, but also for Tapon Sinha that he had done, but finally getting his recognition with your film?
Right. See, I think genuinely, by the time I started interacting with him, like 15 years back or 20 years back, I have seen that he has genuinely no desire for awards and recognitions. And I say genuinely because a lot of people, because he had got the highest award from the French government, and he got Dadasaheb Phalke Award, which is the highest award in Indian cinema. But he was more interested in the work, and really he didn't have any interest on awards or people, like what people wait for in their lifetime. So when he got for Padokkhep, I'm sure he has mentioned that he had done a wonderful film called Koni, where he was a swimming teacher in early 80s.
Right.
So forget about Satyajit Ray's films. He had mentioned that for Koni, somehow he yearned for that award then. It was early 80s I'm talking about. But slowly, I think he realized that, that wouldn't be his priority in life. And he refused the jury mention for Dakha, the film where I was the observer for Gautam Ghosh in that film. That was in not year before, but 6 years back, 2001, he got that jury mention.
Right.
So I think that he took a bit insulting because, after so many years not giving him the best actor award, a jury mention. And I think what hurt him more was the best actor that year was got by Anil Kapoor for Pukar. So, and remember, I'm not demeaning Anil Kapoor. He has done wonderful films also. He might have got in Ishwar. There was a wonderful film called Ishwar. Or, he has done very good work also, but not for Pukar. So that was an outright insult to him. And that story where the jury was none other than Buddhadev Dasgupta, the acclaimed director. And much later in life, I think 4 or 5 years back in a festival, I met Buddhadev Dasgupta and I said that I'm Suman. He said, no, I've seen your work. So then he told me, let me reveal you a secret, that year I was the jury head. And we all loved the film, but then, and we all, in say 10-15 minutes, we agreed that there was no disagreement with anyone. It was a very esteemed panel, and he should get the award for this. And someone told that, but he has refused his award, so it will be quite disgraceful if we offer him, and then he again rejects the best actor award. Now not the. So then what Buddhadev Dasgupta did was he came out from that meeting and called Soumitra Chatterjee. That Dada, this is what we have decided. Please don't reject the award now. So then Soumitra said, okay. But later, when he was asked in the press that about this national award debacle and then getting it, he said that I'm happy that I got for a film which I really liked. At least it was not given for and he used to do some, forgettable films also. So at least he didn't get like a Pukar, what Anil Kapoor got. So he said that I'm very pleased that I got this award. At least it doesn't matter to me, but that was his official statement.
Yeah, so that's very fascinating. There's a beautiful piece because before I go there, I want to ask. You delve into this person through anecdotes, through the stories, through taking us through his personal life, his personal views, interaction. At the end of the day, what is it that you want your reader to take away, not only from Soumitra Chatterjee as a person, but overall, what is it that we should take away from the book? I have a thought, but I want to hear your thoughts on it.
See, I think I have two kinds of readers in mind. One is, say, people associated with films, filmmakers and actors, specifically actors. See, acting is something which is not just, so it is, I find very, very fascinating, the profession of acting. I am not an actor, but, I read about books on acting and, I interact with, and I'm very, very fortunate to have interacted with very closely with not only Soumitra Kapoor, but actors of the stature of Mithun Chakraborty and, Poran Bandyopadhyay, Arun Mukhopadhyay, and Konkona Sen Sharma, Sudipta Chakraborty, Kaushik Sen, Shashwato. So brilliant actors have interacted, and I am intrigued by the process of how they get into a role. So I think for anyone interested in acting or any directors or anyone associated with films and theater, I think there's a lot of takeaway from just from those anecdotes only of preparing a role. And I think the chapter is Actor Prepares, which I name it. based on Stanislavski's great book. So all the 5 films that I have worked with him, each what was my input and what was how he took that input and then transformed that into the characterization. So I think this process will be helpful for film students, but more generally for readers. I think it is what I mentioned in the very beginning, like a chameleon, they can get into a relationship. And I often say that it is like a love story. So between me and him. So it's read it like a love story, how the courtship started, like starting from when I was as an observer in Dhaka, where I wanted to just meet him and tell you guys, you and my friends close that I have talked to Soumitra Chatterjee. That's a big kick for me. So that was the courtship period. And then slowly the affair starts, and it gets very deep when the working relationship starts, like a husband, wife, you exchange so much. I wait for, his addas. He yearns when I will come back from the US. So then so it's like a love story, I would say. So read it as just a love story. It's a peculiar perspective I gave, I know. But one of the way I would think is like this. Yeah. What was your point? You were saying you have in mind something.
No, I was yeah, absolutely right. There's this one, I would say, one actor's lessons from what he says, and I'm going to get back to that. But more importantly, I think what it breaks down is some of that what you said. It's important to get away from this thing we do about public persona worship, put them on a pedestal, and not evaluate them as a person. And that's I think this book's does a fantastic job of breaking that norm. But and in terms of as an actor, I found 2 things absolutely more. I mean, plenty, but 2 things that jump out of in my mind. And the first one, is through a simile that he answers, and you put it in your book. When you ask him about this, he narrates a story about how boats were treated, and I would love for you to narrate that. And then that was one of the...
See, I told you that I worked in Boshu Poribar after Rono's accident. And I had asked him, I think the discussion was along these lines that you go through so many debacles or person, and how do you, how are you still so active and agile mentally and physically when you're going on to act something after such a debacle and things like that. So then he gave the simile. So he was born and brought up in Krishnanagar, which is a town, I don't know, 100 kilometers from Calcutta. So in Krishnanagar, he said that, and there was a river there. So during the off seasons, the boats were, and the river's waters were also quite, it was not high tide or anything like that. So the boats were submerged in the water because otherwise they will dry out. So the wood would be active. And he said that when the season arrives, when you need the boats to ply on the rivers, it was always ready. So he said that an actor should always keep him or her submerged. And when the season comes, season means like acting in your film Boshu Poribar now, forget about what has happened to me, but I should always be ready. So, but I gave a very bad way of representing what I'm saying, what he said. But in the book, it is a part of an interview, and I had asked that question. So he puts it much better than what I explained. But that was the idea, which I found fascinating to anyone. Actually, it is a life lesson. Forget about an actor, actors from an actor's point of view. He said that. But as a life lesson, we go through ups and downs, but we have to be prepared. There is our passion. There is our, we have to be prepared and agile. So when the season comes, we cannot say that, oh, I'm, down or something has happened to me or whatever. I should be ready, and that should be my kick also. So, that was, I think, what you're mentioning. Yeah.
That is right. The other thing I kind of find fascinating about him is his respect for co-actors.
Right.
in particular, you mentioned in the book, how, and I'll let you narrate a bit, but how his respect for Nasiruddin Shah or Irfan Khan or Nawaz, and then he actively
Right.
watched them and
Right.
appreciated their work. This is,
Right.
and he had that almost. Go on, I'll let you go say those
Yeah,
anecdotes.
so as I mentioned in the book, he was a blind fan of Irfan Khan, and he said that I can die peacefully after seeing an actor like Irfan. And unfortunately, the same year Irfan also passed away. So he used to say that he used to compare Irfan with Balraj Sahni, whom he thought was the ultimate actor. So he became like a child after seeing Lunchbox. Of course, he was following Irfan from Maqbool, and we used to talk about him after Lanba. And I mentioned in the book, he got his number from somewhere and called Irfan. That, I mean, Irfan was stunned that Soumitra Chatterjee is calling him and talking to him like that. Uh, yeah, and of course, his appreciation for Nasiruddin, those are there. But one point I would mention, the incident where it is in my book, I'll very briefly narrate it. Uh, and this is also a respect and love for a co-actor, is the incident from Nobel Chor, where remember I had said that in Nobel Chor, he had the diction perfect of the Bolpur diction perfect. And when Mithun comes in the first shot of when they are interacting, he immediately realizes that Mithun's accent is not that authentic. And what he does, and you see, actors, I narrate this incident to all actors now, that there is a tendency for outplaying the other, okay, to 10 goal diye dilo, like he gave 10 goals to that other actor or something. There is a slight subtle interpersonal rivalry. What I try to do is, as a director, to transform them into a healthy competition rather than bringing each other down. But I am telling you, you also know that there is a subtle rivalry going on within actors. But when he saw that Mithun was not in the correct accent, he actually sacrificed his authenticity, because otherwise the film will get affected. Everybody will, of course, say that, oh, Soumitra, you see his authenticity in accent. Mithun, though, he couldn't, Mithun parlo na, or way kore. But that, so he sacrificed himself and, spoke in that Mithun accent throughout the film. So I think that was a wonderful, example, which, as I told you, I tell to all actors, just look at that, for the respect for a co-actor.
And then the other thing is respect for co-actors is also a concern. Not just, he's just not a part of a project. He's just not an actor appearing on a film.
Right.
Or something, he owes a responsibility to making the film a success as a whole. As you have narrated in the book about his disappointment with the lackluster, and he has spoken with me too about it, the lackluster kind of initial response we got for P7. And
Right.
it's just I think he's one of the great traits about him is he
No,
makes
I
the
think
project his own.
he had a particular soft corner for P7. That's why you,
Yeah.
as a producer, also he asked,
Yeah.
about how that he didn't do, because he always told me that this type of narrative structure he has not seen in Bengali films, surely not even in Indian cinema, where it starts from a neo-realist scenario and goes on to a surrealist. When it
Right.
ends, so this change of cinematic form in one particular film. So that's why he was adamant that at least audiences see the film. They might hate it, but something different they would have seen. So that's why he was very disappointed in the initial theatrical. But see, we also knew that it is not a film which, like a Boshu Poribar or a Kadamburi or my other films, or a Bela Sheshe, Shibu's film, that people will flock to the audience, the theaters, and see that film. We lucked out because Netflix acquired it subsequently.
Yes.
So I think he that was a point he wanted to hone in with P7, and that's why his dissatisfaction when P7 did not do that well. I don't think universe for my other films he inquired, what is the how is the business, and because he knew in Boshu Poribar, he said that
Absolutely.
this is the star cast, it will do well. So I know that, but he had a particular soft corner for P7 for sure. Yeah.
Wonderful. So now that we are heading towards the end of our session, I just want to ask, how do you feel after writing the book and the reception, pretty warm reception it has received everywhere? You have been to so many different places, releasing the book, talking to your readers about it. How do you feel after it? I mean, what is your reaction to that?
Let me tell you one message which I sent to Poulumidi, his daughter. After, so I went to Jaipur Literary Festival, Ranchi, and whatever. But recently in the India Habitat Center in Delhi, there was a special program for the release, Delhi launch of the book, and then there was Podokep shown. And I wrote to, and I can say that publicly also, I wrote to Poulumidi that I feel like crying when I talk about him, you know. So I think deep emotion. So I'm, I wrote this book, and so that is what I wrote to Poulumidi just yesterday. And Poulumidi said that I can understand, Suman, why is he not there? She responded, so that is the way I would say I feel right now. Because now, everybody is reading about the book. I'm happy. But I think when I say I feel like crying, it is a happy emotion which I mentioned.
Yeah, and this is which, I mean, you mentioned in your book that when you write a script now, or whenever you write a script, you have a particular actor's face in mind, right?
Right.
And then you develop the character on that.
Right.
What would happen to those characters in absence of Soumitra Chatterjee?
So nowadays I'm not making Bengali films, but that's on a lighter note. But yeah, so now I will not think of certain characters. So forget, I know many actors, many directors, my colleagues in the industry. They had plans of these films with Soumitra Chatterjee, and they have abandoned those projects because there is no one to substitute him. And the same with me. I had 2-3 projects in mind, but I cannot do it. Not because of any emotional reason, but there is no one to substitute him, to do that elan, that charisma, that acting power and everything. And those characters demands that, so some stories will never be told, not of only mine, but many other directors I know of also.
And that, with that note, and I would urge, we just scratched the surface to the many different beautiful anecdotes, stories, life lessons that's embedded in this gem of a book by Suman Ghosh. So I would urge the readers to go out and read it. And it's not just for actors. Even if you're not actor, not related to film, just read the book and you'll get a sense of how to cope with life, cope with challenges, to how to rejuvenate your youth in yourself through your work. It's absolutely a brilliant piece of work. And thank you, Suman, for joining this session. And I was wondering, Meera, who's our host, is there any questions from the audiences that might have come in, or?
I don't see any questions from the audience, but I have questions. And thank you very much, Sumanji and Arindam, for this wonderful, delightful portraiture of a larger-than-life persona, which 1 hour is not enough. My first question is, how and where can people get this book, Sumanji?
Yeah, so it is available on Amazon. So in the US, it's available on Amazon, but in India, of course, in the bookstores and Amazon in India. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Now, probably someone might want to option it, or you would consider the way you. I heard the discussion. I haven't seen the book, read the book, but it seems it kind of endears itself to being a very interesting, different kind of biopic. Would you be interested, or if someone is interested, would you be ready to option it out?
Actually, a biopic has already been made on him very recently, and I saw it yesterday. It's directed by Parambruta Chatterjee on Soumitra Kaku. So no, I don't think it is biopic material, in the sense that, you see, we talk a lot about Satyajit Ray and Uttam Kumar and everything. You cannot. I have very positive things about the film also, but I realized that let me not go into the film details, but a biopic has already been made. So yeah, so there's no plan of making a biopic.
The thing is that even the challenge, who's going to play Soumitra Chatterjee?
Exactly.
I was
So
going
I was
to
just,
propose
the
our very
person who
own
played
Arindam.
Soumitra Chatterjee in the biopic was Jishu Sengupta, a very close friend of mine who has acted with me also. But, it doesn't, and I think Jishu will also not mind, from the first scene when Jishu comes in, I was just off the movie. It just, and it is not Jishu's fault. You just cannot,
It's
play
impossible.
that. So, for example, I know that Arindam stopped watching. So, there is a Feluda series. Feluda is a private detective and an iconic character. Arindam stopped watching Feludas after Soumitra Chatterjee stopped playing Feluda. I don't think he watched after that, right?
No,
So,
not a single one.
I think he was too adamant there. I said that Shobbhashai Chakraborty is good, see that. He said, no, I think that is his mental block or whatever. But that is what happened with him, I know. So it's same with Jishu. I don't blame Jishu, but it is just impossible.
But Arindam under your direction? There's a thought.
No.
You just said he's a great actor. So.
No, you are saying to play Soumitra Chatterjee.
Yeah.
Arindam.
Sorry.
No, not even close, not even option. We have been in the same room with him, and when he used to be there, we have been in a just a private setting, or on one of these clubs where we used to go and sit down, have like dinner and stuff. He used to light up a room, and Suman used to say, "Look at him, he's sitting there. He's going to grab all the attention. No one is going to even notice that career." And that presence, that magnetic personality is just impossible to replicate, unless probably someone will come later on to do it. But at this point, I just
Yeah, and there is one question from one of our audience members, and question is, Sumanji, are you working on your next book?
Book, no. But I have a rough idea of a book in mind after this. That is, since I said that I was very fortunate to work with many such great actors, Konkona Sen Sharma and other Mithun Chakraborty. So like an actor's manual of how different. So here I have talked about how Soumitra's and my interaction was, how different actors have their different processes of developing characters. So I have roughly that in mind, but I don't see it very soon because I'm too engaged with my film projects. So let's see. But that is a book which I have in mind for sure. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. It has been a wonderful session, and we could go on and on because your subject matter is such. And good luck with everything, and until next time. Meet at the film festival or the literary festival.
Yeah.
Thank you, Suman. Thank you, Meera. It was wonderful.
Bye. Bye. Thank you, Manoj Singh and DC Sal.
Yes, a big thanks to Manoj and DC Sal for putting this together. A wonderful forum.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good night.